Hello, this is Brian from Tavaran Games, here with another update to Dungeon Maker. So in this update, most of the changes were made to the multiplayer portion of the game, adding in an indicator for the range of attacks, as well as integrating hit dice and long rests, making it so that you can open up the character sheet in-game and make any changes you want. As well as then, outside of that, I've added in resistances, immunities, and vulnerabilities to player characters. I've fixed up a few things in the map editor for blending of floors, and I've fixed the light blocker for these wide doors when they close. So, let's get to it. The first thing is going to be our attack range indicator. So for any attacks that have a range, that's outside of the play or based from the player, you'll see a little red circle will pop up. So in the case of a rapier, we have a 5-foot range from the character, and we have this nice little 5-foot circle around them. So we can still actually attack enemies outside of that range. The indicator is just that. It's an indicator to let the player see this is the actual range of the attack. And it's more meant for range attacks, say a crossbow. We look at that. The player doesn't have to count the number of squares out to see, is the enemy within my advantaged range or my normal range, or are they past that in the disadvantaged range? And you can see with a crossbow, it's so far that we can just barely see the outer circle. And if we select a longbow, the outer circle is way off the camera, so we can't even see it. But it's just meant to be a simple little tool for the players to be able to see, okay, what's in range of my attack and what isn't. And the circles will go away once we don't have an attack selected anymore. And again, for spells that have a range that you can cast within it, like Fireball, you can see we have the indicator again. But for cone things and line spells where the range is just the end of the cone or line, you don't get the circle coming up. But yeah, that's just a little feature to make the players' lives a little bit easier so that they can see very quickly what's in range and what isn't, and not have to be counting squares all the time. Okay, so the next feature is the hit dice. Now, if you've been using Dungeon Maker or looking at the videos before, you'll have seen hit dice have been on the character sheet from the start of me programming this game, but I've only just now finally integrated their use into the game. So let's take our health down a bit. We have to update HP in order to register that on the server. And now let's roll a hit dice. And you can see we rolled our hit dice, a 1d10 in the case of this character. We roll a 4, and the Constitution modifier is added to that, and we are restored that much health. So you can see we're up to 16. Now we can roll hit dice until we get down to 0. Now actually, if we hit roll again, you can see we're not rolling any dice. No dice is rolled, nothing's happening here. If you want to keep rolling hit dice, this is interactable. You can change the number whenever you want. If you accidentally roll one more hit dice than you wanted to, and you can subtract the health and add yourself back a hit dice. I didn't want to restrict the player completely and have it impossible for them to add back hit dice in case they make a mistake. So this is interactable. I mean, you could type in as much as you want and roll dice forever. You know, we got hundreds and hundreds if we wanted. But it's up to you and the DM. This, again, is meant to be a tool to help you facilitate your Dungeons & Dragons game, not to make it too easy to cheat. But I didn't want to take away that ability. But yeah, so the hit dice are working. They do heal you when you have them until you run out. And then you have a long rest button. So when we click this button, it just simply restores us to full health and adds back half our hit dice. Now, this only works if you are at 1 HP or higher. If you're at 0 HP and we try to do a long rest, nothing happens. As in the rules of D&D, if your character is on the verge of death, is in that dying state, the long rest doesn't help them until they get at least 1 hit point back, and then it will work. So this is just a little feature to help the players keep track of their hit dice and health. And the rests, again, it will be up to the players and the DM to determine when they can use these buttons and actually take the rests and do that. But just to help them facilitate that aspect of their characters. Okay, now you'll notice under the Health and Now Character tab, this used to be called Health and Armor, and there was a little box here with your armor class and an Update Armor Class button. I've replaced that with the character sheet. So if we hit Edit Character, the full character sheet pops up. So if you want to change the armor class, you can do it here. So let's actually put our armor class to 1 and let's attack ourselves. And we should hit very easily. Now that was actually a decent roll. Let's try and get a very bad roll. So in this case, we rolled a 14, we still hit. But if we go back up, make our armor class 18, that still functions. Let's roll again. Oh, we rolled well again. This game is not helping me out. Random chance is against me today. Wow, we are rolling amazingly. 2 18s, a 20, we crit. There we go. So we rolled an 11. We finally miss on that on the AC. But you can change anything else, anything you want. So the armor class, that makes sense. If you equip or unequip your shield, you'll want to change that mid-game. Certain spells will add to your AC, but certain spells will add to your speed. As well, they might change up your abilities, so they might add to your strength for a bit. Now, another change I've made, so you can see on the character sheet, I've made it slimmer, and we have these tabs now. So one thing is if we look at the skills page, you can see here the skills are now automatically calculated based on your ability score modifiers, and it tells you which modifier applies to which skill. And you can select your proficiencies here. So I've only selected a few just for example. Now if we change something, so you say you take a potion of giant strength or whatever it is, and your strength goes way up, so let's say that goes to 14. We go over to our skills. Our athletics now is at 2 instead of the -1 it was. It will automatically calculate this. Now these can be changed. You can type in whatever you want. However, if you do make any changes to any of them, so let's say you make self-proficient arcana, it will recalculate all of them. It goes through and recalculates. Let's say our wisdom, let's put that down to 14. You can see our wisdom-based skills are now lower, so this is now at 2. Perception's at 2. Let's make ourselves proficient. It's at 5. Expertise will bring that up to 8. So yeah, it's automatically calculating, and then you can still manually make changes if you want to. You just have to do it after you've sort of set your base stats and set your proficiencies, and then you can manually change them, and those numbers are what will be saved. You can add and change actions here, as well as back on the page. I didn't take this away. And then I've added in resistances. So you have your resistances, your immunities, and vulnerabilities to different damage types. So right now this character is resistant to fire. So let's save the change. Now this fireball is actually, so it's a dexterity save. Because of evasion, let's make it a strength save. And let's hit our character with the fireball. So you can see the fireball does 14 damage here, but we actually rolled 29. So you can see we have the damage because of the resistance. Now if we then make the character immune, instead of resistant, we hit them with another fireball. So the fireball, the save roll failed, but we take 0 fire damage. So that will allow your character to have resistances and immunities. They are being calculated for the character. And I know that because there's certain spells and potions and abilities that will grant you these resistance immunities and maybe even vulnerabilities. So you can add these to the characters and have the damage automatically be corrected for your character. So that's the changes to the character sheets. Again, we've got all the same stats from before, the stats, abilities, skills. They're all still there. They've just been moved around a bit, especially with the skills and the new proficiencies. And then the resistances have been added. Okay, so the fact that you can add that in-game is the last feature I'm going to show in the multiplayer. Now let's exit this and go to the map maker. I believe this is a blank map. So floor blending, before, if you rotated floors, so there are floors that can rotate, so say the wheat can be rotated. If you did the rotations for floors that could blend, though, the blendings would end up rotated incorrectly. So if you put down grass, let's put down some cracked mud next to it, not rotated, and you see the blending there. Now if you rotated this tile and then placed them down, before, the blending would actually rotate with it, so it would be blending underneath here. And it looked really weird. Now though I fixed that, so the blending layers actually rotate properly, or counter to the placement of the tiles, so that when they do blend with the tiles next to them, the image of it does look correct. And this applies to our blueprints as well. If you watched the previous update video, you would have seen this, and the blending of these tiles and the grass all was messed up when I placed down a rotated blueprint. But now it blends all correctly for the rotated tiles. So that's just a little change, but it makes things a little bit nicer and easier. This will actually end up erasing a little there. So I did that. The other thing I did is the carpets are now acting more like stone and wood floors. They will not blend to the tiles next to them. I just ended up not liking the look of the carpet blending over. So the carpets don't. Now with the grass will blend onto the carpet, but not the other way, because I feel like that does make a little bit of sense. Now the other change with the doors, I only just realized this was a glitch earlier today, so let's put that there. Let's put our starting position here. So when we go test the map, you can see the door will block the light, and then if we walk through it, it stops blocking the light. Now, if we close the door, it goes back to blocking the light across the full width. However, before, for these wide doors, I didn't even know that this glitch was in there because I hadn't played as a character. It would limit the light blocking to just the center of the door, and you could actually see through the sides of it. That was just a case of all the doors, or when it resets the light blocking, it resets the collider for it. And I had it set that it would reset the collider to 1 because all the doors, when I programmed that in, were 1 wide. When I added in the wider doors, the double door and the triple wide door, I just didn't even think that I had to change that in the blocking script, or in the lighting script. But that's now fixed, so all the lighting systems should be working a little bit better. Well, that's all the update I have today. Again, please let me know of any issues you have in the game or any features or changes you'd like to see to it in the comments below. I hope you continue to support Dungeon Maker and find it quite useful, and I will keep working on it to try and make it a great D&D program for all of you. As always, have a good one.